KirTop here, and these are 100 most scary finds that will surprise you. Clay theater ticket. At the ancient city of Prusias na Hippias in northwestern Turkey, archaeologists have discovered a clay ticket from the Roman era, a statue of Aphrodite, and the top of a sacred thyrsus staff. The city, previously known as Hippios and Kieros, was renamed after King Prusias I of Bithynia, who captured it in the 3rd century BC. Later, under Roman rule, Prusias flourished and became an important cultural center. Among the surviving buildings in the city, the ancient amphitheater, known locally as the 40 Steps, stands out. This semicircular structure, 100 meters long and 74 meters wide, is decorated with carved steps with lion claw patterns. Despite earthquakes, the theater has remained virtually intact. About 80% of the structure has already been uncovered, and the artifacts found are in excellent condition. The oldest mineral on Earth. In 2001, a unique zircon crystal was discovered in Australia, which is recognized as the oldest mineral on Earth. Its age is an impressive 4.4 billion years, which makes it a witness to the earliest stages of the formation of our planet. This tiny crystal gives scientists the opportunity to understand how the Earth cooled and formed in its first billion years. Today, this rare artifact can be seen in the Geological Museum of the University of Wisconsin in Madison, USA. Zirconium is interesting not only for its age, but also because its resistance to destruction allows it to preserve information about ancient processes that took place on Earth, which makes it a real keeper of the history of our planet. Brewers of the Wari culture. The ancient Wari culture, which predates the Incan civilization, flourished in the Andes Mountains of Peru for hundreds of years. Particularly noteworthy is the fact revealed by research from the University of Florida and the Field Museum in 2005. Wari brewers were women, and not ordinary workers, but representatives of the upper class, distinguished by their extraordinary beauty. These talented women brewed chicha, a traditional alcoholic drink made from corn and the fruit of the Peruvian pepper tree, which dates back 1,000 years. Temple for a lion-headed goddess. An ancient temple carved into a rock has been discovered in Egypt in the Athribis region. It is estimated to be around 2,100 years old and dates back to the reign of Ptolemy VIII, who reigned from 170 to 116 BC. Known for his complex political and family history, the ruler left behind many monuments, and the new temple was an important find. The walls of the temple contain bas-reliefs depicting Ptolemy VIII making sacrifices to the lion-headed goddess Repit and her son Kolant. Repit was the wife of the god Min-Ra, who was associated with fertility. Archaeologists believe that the temple was dedicated to this goddess, although its name remains unknown. During excavations, scientists discovered a hall where temple utensils and amphora were stored. At the entrance to the room, unique bas-reliefs were found depicting Repit and Min-Ra. Of particular interest is the image of Min-Ra surrounded by decans, the stars by which the ancient Egyptians navigated at night. These stars combine human bodies with the heads of animals such as a falcon and an ibis. Medieval prosthetic hand. During archaeological work, a skeleton with a rare iron prosthetic arm was found near Freising in Bavaria. This amazing prosthesis dates back to the late Middle Ages or early modern period and was discovered near the parish church of St. George. The find was sent to Munich for detailed study. The prosthesis was intended for the left hand, missing 4 fingers. Apparently, it was covered in leather and contained a soft padding at the base, and the fingers were made of non-ferrous metal. Although such prostheses were rare, about 50 examples of similar products have been discovered in Central Europe. These ancient prosthetics demonstrate the attempts of doctors of the time to help people who had lost limbs, especially amid numerous military conflicts such as the 30 Years' War. One of the most famous prosthetics was created for Götz von Berlichingen, a knight who lost his arm in 1504. His story inspired Goethe to write a play. Both of Götz's prostheses have survived and are now in the family castle in Baden-Württemberg. Ancient tumor with teeth. During archaeological excavations in Amarna, Egypt, scientists made an amazing discovery. In one of the tombs, dating back to around 1340 BC, they found the skeleton of a young woman aged 18-20, wrapped in a material made from plant fibers. Although tomb number 3051 was located in a cemetery for common people, the woman apparently belonged to the wealthier strata of society, which indicates the presence of gold rings on her hands. Particular attention was drawn to the ring with the image of the deity Bes, who guarded the hearth and women. However, the most surprising discovery was a bone mass with teeth found in the pelvic area of the skeleton. This formation, the researchers suggest, is an ovarian teratoma, a tumor containing tissue that is unusual for a given location, such as hair, bones, or teeth. Perhaps the amulet with the image of the demon was worn by a woman to relieve pain associated with ovarian disease. This discovery is especially valuable since teratomas are extremely rare in archaeological finds. This find is the oldest of all known similar tumors. Research on the Amarna woman suggests that she was an active participant in the social life of the city, which was the capital of Egypt during the reign of Akhenaten. The Qumran Scrolls. These ancient Jewish manuscripts were discovered between 1946 and 1956 in the caves of Qumran near the Dead Sea and revolutionized our understanding of the religious and cultural life of the Second Temple period. The texts cover the period from the 3rd century BC to the 1st century AD and include some of the earliest known versions of biblical books, as well as extra-biblical and deuterocanonical texts, including liturgical, apocalyptic, and legal documents. The biblical manuscripts are especially valuable as they allow us to trace the development of the text of Scripture and provide unique comparative material for analyzing changes in religious texts of the time. These scrolls include fragments of almost all the books of the Old Testament except for the Book of Esther, as well as texts that were previously unknown or lost. The scrolls were likely created or preserved by the Essene community living in the Qumran area. Today, most of the scrolls are kept in the Shrine of the Book at the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, and their study continues. Strip of Holes in Peru. In the Pisco Valley in Peru, there is a mysterious place known as the Strip of Holes, or Monte Sierpe. It is a narrow strip of land 20 meters wide and about 1,500 meters long, strewn with thousands of shallow pits. Their exact purpose remains a mystery, although scientists have put forward many versions. The site first became famous thanks to an aerial photograph by Robert Shippey, published in the 1930s in National Geographic. Archaeologists have long avoided Monte Sierpe. It was only in the 1950s that Victor von Hagen studied the pits and suggested that they were empty graves, and their total number is estimated at 5,000. Later, John Hyslop put forward a version that the pits were used as warehouses, similar to those found in other places in Peru. Each hole is about 1 meter in diameter and up to 1 meter deep. They are made in different ways. Some are dug into the embankment, others are surrounded by stone walls. Modern research, including a detailed map created with the help of drones in 2015, has shown that the strip of holes consists of 6,000 pits divided into blocks with unique patterns. Nearby are Inca roads and remains of storage facilities, and the pottery found indicates that they originated in the 15th century when the Incas conquered the Chincha people. Archaeologist Charles Stanish believes that the pits could have been used to measure agricultural tribute that local farmers gave to rulers. Other scientists, such as Jean-Pierre Protzen, believe that the strip of holes may be even older. He believes that the pits could have been used to store fertilizers, such as excrement. To this day, the strip of holes remains one of the most mysterious archaeological finds in Peru. Who, why, and how created it are still the subject of debate and new research. An ancient toy for adults. The artifact, which is already more than 2,000 years old, was found in Great Britain back in 1992. Initially, archaeologists assumed that this wooden object was used as a sewing tool. However, further study suggested that it could be an ancient sexual device. Most scientists agree that the wooden object found is in the shape of a phallus. The uniqueness of this artifact is that it has not changed its shape and method of use even after thousands of years. And the most interesting thing is that its shape will not change in the future for obvious reasons. However, there are several versions regarding the use of this artifact. as a sex toy. Based on Roman images, it is known that they had dildos, but they rarely came down to us because they were most often made from organic materials. Also, some archaeologists suggest that slave owners could use such an object to inflict pain and demonstrate power over slaves. Others believe it could have been a good luck charm. Indeed, in ancient times, amulets of this shape were very common. As a final option, it could be used as a mortar for grinding or mixing spices and other materials used for culinary or medicinal purposes. Devil's Tracks. On the night of February 8, 1855, mysterious hoofprints appeared in the snow of Devon. They could be seen on rooftops, fields, and narrow streets from up to 100 miles away. The journey of the tracks was not interrupted even in front of obstacles in the form of walls or rivers. Many believed that these were traces of Satan himself. These tracks, also known as devil's hooves, left behind an inexplicable path. The prints resembled those of a donkey, but their placement suggested a bipedal creature. Each track was about 8 centimeters wide and about 10 centimeters long, and the distance between them was from 20 to 40 centimeters. The tracks extended throughout the Devon region, including the ex-estuary area. One of the most unusual aspects was that the tracks appeared out of nowhere and then disappeared. Sometimes they paused at a pile of hay to resume on the other side. In the Times newspaper of February 16, 1855, these marks were called Satan's prints. Many quickly linked this phenomenon to the Prince of Darkness, especially when footprints appeared on doorsteps and around churches. Some people believed the tracks were fake. Some considered possible sources of traces of cats, hares, mice, and badgers. However, no animal could leave marks on the roof. Of course, there were aliens. Some associated the tracks with UFOs or sea monsters. Scientist Mike Dash suggested that there could be different reasons behind the tracks. However, the exact origin of the tracks still remains unknown. Some continue to believe that it was Satan who wandered Devon on that fateful night in 1855. What do you think about this? Write your opinion in the comments. Imam Reza Mausoleum. This is one of the most important religious complexes in the Islamic world and a pilgrimage center for millions of Shiites. The architecture of the complex amazes with its grandeur and exquisite decorative work. Its splendor reflects many centuries of Iranian history, during which the complex was repeatedly rebuilt and decorated. The mosaics, mirror panels, and golden domes that adorn the mausoleum create an atmosphere that transports visitors to another world, a world of spirituality and silence. Every millimeter of space seems to come alive from the light reflected from thousands of mirror pieces, creating the illusion of infinity. The complex includes not only the mausoleum itself, but also mosques, libraries, museums, and religious schools. It houses valuable manuscripts, relics, and works of art that symbolize the rich cultural heritage of Iran. One of the most mystical features of the mausoleum is the ancient legend that prayers said here come true. Pilgrims from all over the world come to the tomb to ask for health, forgiveness, or a miracle. Mesopotamian clay balls. The clay balls, more than 5,500 years old, are still shrouded in mystery. These artifacts, ranging in size from golf balls to baseballs, were found at Chogamish in western Iran in the late 1960s. In total, about 150 such balls were discovered, which only increases the intrigue around their purpose. For a long time, the prevailing theory was that the balls were used as a kind of means of recording economic transactions. This assumption was based on the discovery of a 3,300-year-old ball containing 49 stones and cuneiform writing describing a deal with a shepherd. However, the exact function of these balls remained a mystery. In 2013, using computed tomography and 3D modeling, scientists took a look inside the balls. It turned out that they contained tokens of various shapes, which could serve as numerical signs for recording goods. Researchers are trying to understand the system by which these tokens are grouped within the balls. One of the surprising finds indicates that some tokens were wrapped in cloth and placed in a ball, then coated with a liquid similar to bitumen. Some balls had tiny channels, perhaps for thin threads that could serve as external markers and provide information about the contents. Similar objects have been found in various cultures of the time, including Scotland, where more than 400 carved stone balls from the Neolithic period have been discovered. What else do you think these mysterious artifacts could symbolize? Leave your guesses or in the comments. The face of Tutankhamun's grandmother. Scientists have been able to reconstruct the appearance of Queen Ty, Tutankhamun's grandmother, thanks to modern 3D technology. Ty's mummy was found more than 120 years ago in the Valley of the Kings, but only now has it been possible to recreate her face with high accuracy. Experts have studied the structure of the skull, reconstructed soft tissue, volume under the skin, and hair based on data on the appearance of women in ancient Egypt. The result is an image of a woman with brown eyes, chestnut curly hair, a high cheekbones face, and dark skin. Ty's facial features are delicate and harmonious. Queen Ty was born around 1398 BC into a family that did not belong to the nobility. Her father Yuya was a chariot commander and her mother Tuya ran a harem. Thanks to her personal qualities, Ty became the wife of Pharaoh Amenhotep III and had a significant influence on Egyptian politics. She participated in the government, appeared in official documents, and enjoyed the respect of her husband. Her son Akhenaten carried out one of the largest religious reforms in Egypt, abandoning the traditional gods and making the cult of Aten the central figure. These changes had a strong impact on culture and art, and Ty's grandson Tutankhamun later restored the old traditions. His short but brilliant reign became famous thanks to the discovery of his tomb in 1922. Scientists have determined that Ty died at the age of 40, 60 most likely from natural causes. Some of her features, such as the shape of her chin, were passed on to her descendants, including Tutankhamun. Stone Age Bag. Around 2500 BC, a Neolithic man in what is now Germany found an ingenious way to decorate his bag. During excavations near Leipzig in 2012, archaeologists found more than 100 dog teeth neatly arranged in a grave, suggesting that they decorated the flap of the bag. Archaeologists noted that over time, the leather or fabric of the bag disappeared, leaving only the teeth pointing in one direction. These teeth likely decorated the outside of the bag. All of them are arranged in the same way, reminiscent of a modern flap. These finds were made in the Profan quarry. Other important artifacts were found in the same area, including the burial of a woman who lived around 50 BC, buried with half a kilogram of gold jewelry. However, even against the backdrop of such rich finds, the bag with dog teeth was a real discovery. This is the first time that archaeologists have found direct evidence of the existence of such an accessory. The teeth of a dozen dogs were used to decorate this bag. In other burials of the time, archaeologists also found wolf teeth, dog teeth, and shells, which were apparently used to decorate bedspreads and clothing. When the fabric decomposed, only these decorative elements remained. Tomb of the Royal Scribe. In Abu Sir, Egypt, Czech Egyptologists made an important discovery. They found the tomb of a young royal scribe, which is approximately 2,500 years old. This find, along with other archaeological discoveries in the region, gives scientists a better understanding of the changes that took place in Egypt in the 5th and 6th centuries BC. The tomb belonged to a certain Jehutimat, who lived during the Persian invasion of Egypt. Only the underground shaft of the tomb has survived, at the bottom of which, at a depth of 14 meters, there is a chamber tomb built from limestone blocks. Inside is a stone sarcophagus with relief decorations, hieroglyphs, and images of ancient Egyptian gods. According to Ladislav Baris of the Czech Institute of Egyptology, the tomb was decorated in the traditional style of the time for important persons, although Jehutimat himself was only a mid-ranking official. The inscriptions on the walls were intended to facilitate his path to the afterlife and ensure eternal bliss. They contained mostly religious texts, the names of his parents, and specific wording, including spells to ward off snakes. However, despite the magical texts, the tomb of Jehutimat was almost empty when opened, having been plundered around the 5th century AD. The era when the tomb was built was a time of decline of civilization and social upheaval. Examination of the remains showed that Jehutimat died at about 25 years old and already showed signs of severe osteoporosis and spinal wear, possibly due to an occupational disease. A miniature wonder. This miniature almanac with an embroidered cover, created in France around 1780, is a true masterpiece of 18th century decorative art. Its dimensions, only 3x7 centimeters, make it not only a work of art but also an intriguing collector's item. Such miniatures were popular among the French aristocracy and served both practical and aesthetic purposes. The cover, made of embroidered fabric, is decorated with an intricate pattern of flowers, which symbolized not only the taste of the era, but also the high skill of the needlewomen of that time. Red and blue decorative elements on the edges give the product additional sophistication. Such almanacs were often given as gifts, accompanied by personal inscriptions or poems, adding even more personal value to the item. Its small size suggests that it was intended to be carried in pockets or handbags, which allowed the owners to demonstrate their refined taste. It may have contained brief notes, calendars, or even love letters, making it a witness to intimate moments of life during those years. Rune stone from Rioka. An ancient runic inscription on a stone found in southern Sweden at Edeshag is the longest in the world. Many experts believe that this is an epitaph in memory of the warrior Vamuda created by his father. However, Swedish scientists who studied the text concluded that the stone also reflects fear of the coming climate crisis, in particular global cooling. Researchers suggest that the text refers to the consequences of the cold snap of 536, which caused famine, mass migrations, and conflicts. This crisis could have caused the Scandinavian population to halve. The text also mentions battles under the reign of Theodoric, possibly referring to Theodoric the Great. However, scientists believe that there may be an additional subtext: the struggle between light and darkness, life and death. According to archaeology professor Bo Graslund, the text can record terrible natural phenomena such as a solar storm or an eclipse. They could provoke fear of the approach of Fimbulwinter, the apocalyptic winter from Norse mythology. Message in a bottle. Norwegian archaeologist Jacob Bredesen was shocked when he discovered a message in a bottle that had been buried for over 150 years. The find was made during excavations of an ancient Viking burial mound. The message was left by archaeologist Anders Lorange in 1874 when he first explored the burial mound. Archaeologists have not opened a Viking burial mound in Norway for over 100 years, and it is incredible that they decided to re-excavate this one. The mound where the bottle was found belongs to the legendary king Audbjorn. He was buried with the largest Viking ship in the world. The Norwegian Ministry of Cultural Heritage initiated the excavation in order to nominate the mound for UNESCO World Heritage status. Inside the bottle, they found a note left by Lorange, 2 19th century coins, his business card, and a letter. The translation of the text on the note reads, "This mound was excavated in 1874. Fallen warriors were buried here. They were burned together with the ship, weapons, and jewelry. 26 shields, 2 swords, an axe, many arrows, and other artifacts were found. All finds were transferred to the Bergen Museum. The mound became famous for the huge number of preserved artifacts, which confirms the funeral traditions of the Vikings, who often sent their warriors on their last journey on ships with weapons and armor. The Vikings were seafarers and conquerors from Scandinavia, who explored and conquered coastal territories from the 8th to the 11th centuries. Some scientists believe that they may have been the first Europeans to reach North America. Obsidian mirror. Ancient civilizations in Mexico used obsidian mirrors or tezcatls as divination tools. Looking into the depths of the mirror, the sorcerers were transported to the world of gods and ancestors. Obsidian mirrors can be seen as a metaphor for the images of ancient Mexican monuments. They reflect not only the object, but also the person looking. The main accessory of the supreme Aztec god Tezcatlipoca is an obsidian mirror. His name translates to smoking mirror. He is often depicted with a mirror on his chest, wearing jewelry, or in place of his right leg. Tezcatlipoca was the ruler of the night and its creatures, primarily the jaguar, which according to beliefs could move between the earthly and underground worlds. In 1969, American artist Robert Smithson visited Mayan ruins, following the path of writer John Lloyd Stevens. Despite traveling through Mayan territory, Smithson claimed to embody Tezcatlipoca. This experience inspired him to create a piece of art in which he used mirrors to illustrate time travel. In the early 20th century in Mexico City, Augustus Genin, a Mexican collector of French origin, amassed an extensive collection of pre-Columbian artifacts. Ancient Mexican mirrors from his collection survive to this day in various shapes and sizes. Sometimes they were reused, inserted into Christian crosses, or as symbols of vanity. Greetings from the Neolithic. This magnificent artifact, a bare-headed dagger, was found in the Piajoki area of Finland and dates back to the Stone Age, approximately 4000–2000 BC. Its exquisite design of striped stone is evidence of the high level of craftsmanship of the ancient craftsmen. The bear head on the dagger's handle is not only decorative but may have symbolized strength, endurance, and spiritual guidance. In a cultural context, it may have been used in rituals related to hunting or the worship of animals that were considered sacred protective spirits. The bear was a particularly revered creature in the mythology of ancient Finnish tribes, associated with the world of ancestors and nature spirits. The blade shows no obvious signs of use, which may indicate its ceremonial significance. Such an artifact may have belonged to an important person in the community, such as a chieftain or shaman, who used it for special ceremonies. A cat-kneaded dough. This discovery was made during excavations on Mount Zion in Jerusalem, where among numerous finds, a fragment of a clay jug with prints of a cat's paw and claw marks was found. These marks belonged to a cat which probably kneaded the clay while it was still drying before firing. This is the first such find in archaeology, confirming that a cat felt so comfortable that it indulged in its usual feline behavior on clay. The fragment of the jug dates back to the Abbasid era, around 750 CE. The marks were not immediately discovered during excavations, but in the laboratory when the director of the laboratory, Gretchen Cotter, was carefully studying the materials found on Mount Zion. The paw print measures about 3 × 3 centimeters, and the depth of the claw marks suggests that the cat likely stretched and extended its claws, leaving deep marks in the wet clay. Cat kneading is an instinctive behavior that is commonly associated with feelings of security and contentment. Cats do this when they feel relaxed and content. Such animal prints on pottery are not uncommon in archaeology, but this is the first time evidence has been found of a cat leaving claw marks during the kneading process. Other animals, such as dogs and birds, often left marks in clay as it was drying before it was fired. This case is unique not only because it is the first time kneading has been recorded on a piece of pottery, but also because this ancient feline behavior has changed little over the millennia. Cats continue to knead soft surfaces, whether blankets, pillows, or our laps, which brings them a sense of calm and pleasure. Sheep-drawn chariot. In northwestern China, near the famous Terracotta Army, archaeologists have discovered a sheep-drawn chariot that is about 2,000 years old. This find is a rare artifact, as similar chariots are mentioned in ancient Chinese texts. The remains were found in the western tomb of the mausoleum of Emperor Qin Shi Huangdi, located near the city of Xi'an, Shanxi province. The archaeologist who led the excavations said that the structure of the chariot was not preserved due to its long stay in the ground, but the remains of 6 sheep with devices for traction were discovered at the site. Sheep-drawn chariots are a rarity in Chinese history. The emergence of such vehicles is associated with the legend of Emperor Wu, Sima Yan, of the Western Jin dynasty, who, according to legend, traveled on such a chariot around his palace. This legend gave rise to the Chinese phrase, "to seek luck in a sheep cart," referring to the choice of a wife from a harem of 10,000 wives. The research also uncovered a 4-wheeled wooden chariot with an umbrella, copper artifacts associated with chariots and horses, as well as iron tools and copper weapons. Precious old brooch. A mother and daughter presented an antique brooch in the shape of a ballerina on the British show Antiques Roadshow, which airs on the BBC. The decoration immediately caught the attention of jewelry expert Joanna Hardy. The brooch turned out to be exquisite. Turquoise, rubies, diamonds, and 18-karat gold, materials that look refined and elegant. Hardy noted that the brooch could be a collector's item and is worth a fortune. The daughter said that the brooch was given to her mother by a Polish jeweler in the 1970s and 1980s. When he closed his shop, he allowed the woman to choose any item. She chose a ballerina since she used to teach at a ballet school in Chester. For her, the decoration had a special symbolic meaning. The expert tried to establish the origin of the brooch. According to her, the piece has all the hallmarks of Van Cleef & Arpels, a famous company that has been making ballerina-shaped brooches since the 1940s. However, there was no brand mark on the piece, so only the company itself can confirm its authenticity. If the brooch is genuine, its value could reach tens of thousands of pounds. General's gold jewelry. In 2020, a huge trove of gold artifacts was found in Vindelev, Denmark, dating back to pre-Viking Age migrations. The finds included 23 gold objects, including 13 5th-century bracteates, gold fittings possibly from weapons, and 4 4th-century Roman medallions. Particularly noteworthy is the runic inscribed bracteate. the largest ever found containing a reference to Odin, a key figure in Norse mythology. Research into these medallions has shed light on possible cultural and social connections between Vindalev and other regions of Europe. It is assumed that the medallions could serve as wedding ransoms or high gifts in elite circles. These gold medallions were probably worn by women as pendants, indicating the high status of their owner, who carried weight both locally and internationally. The peculiarity of these medallions is that they were given to prominent Roman figures such as senators and generals, and their presence in Vindalev, far from the Roman Empire, underscores the importance of this find. Light-skinned, blue-eyed giants. For centuries, there have been rumors about giant people who lived on Earth in the distant past. Bone finds around the world support these myths. One of the most mysterious places with such finds is Santa Catalina Island off the coast of California. Santa Catalina is a small, cozy island near Los Angeles, part of the Channel Islands archipelago. Its history begins with the settlement of the Gabrielino Indians about 7,000 years ago. After them, both Spaniards and Mexicans visited here until the island became part of the United States. The story of young Ralph Glidden, who moved to the island in 1896, deserves special attention. After finding an Indian skull, he became interested in searching for ancient relics. Growing up, Ralph conducted many archaeological excavations, finding over 800 graves and many artifacts. He sold these relics to museums and private collectors. The Catalina Island Museum, founded by Glidden, is known for its unique exhibits. Among them, the skeletons found by Glidden became especially popular. But the greatest resonance was caused by his application for the discovery of the remains of people 270 centimeters tall. According to him, they had a European appearance, blonde hair and blue eyes. One of the amazing finds was the skeleton of a girl surrounded by the remains of 64 children. According to Glidden, the remains of more than 3,000 people were discovered on the island. Most of them were tall, which was not typical for the Indians. In 1913, German-born physician A. Furstenen discovered an 8-foot skeleton in Avalon Bay, along with artifacts including a stone with symbols. But when trying to extract it, the skeleton collapsed, leaving only part of the bones. The press actively responded to such reports. The Ogden Standard-Examiner newspaper wrote about Glidden's findings in 1929, claiming the existence of an ancient tall race on Catalina. In addition, it was said that on the nearby island of Santa Rosa, skeletons with double rows of teeth and 6 fingers and toes were discovered in 1959. Furstenen also heard legends about an ancient race of giants on Catalina who lived before the arrival of Europeans. However, Glidden's sensational findings on Santa Catalina remained in question for scientists from around the world. Most scientists believed that he was looking for funding for his research, and rumors said that the skeletons in his museum were only high-quality fakes. According to some sources, part of the giant skeletons was sent to the University of California and the Smithsonian Institution, where they disappeared into secret storage facilities. Archival photos allegedly depicting these skeletons are controversial. There is an opinion that they are fake, but researcher L. Marzulli claims their authenticity, noting the presence of a 6th finger on one of the hands. In 1962, sensing his impending death, Glidden sold his collection for just $5,000. He passed away in 1967. Today, the question of who Ralph Glidden was, a master of hoaxes or the discoverer of a mysterious civilization, remains open. Unfortunately, no convincing scientific evidence has been found for the existence of giants on Earth along with humanity. A matrix for making gold images. In the central part of the island of Falster, located in the southeast of Denmark, an enthusiast with a metal detector made an incredible discovery that could rewrite not only the history of the region, but also shed light on little-known pages of Danish history. Lennart Larsen, walking in the rain in search of artifacts, heard a weak signal from his device. After digging up the ground, he found a small, unusual object, an ancient matrix for making gold images, which were presumably used in cult rites as offerings to the gods. According to archaeologists from the Lolland and Falster Museum, this find may be associated with an ancient center of power or religious activity. The matrix, only 2 centimeters in size, dates back to the period between 500 and 700, a time before the beginning of the Viking Age. Such artifacts are incredibly rare. Only 28 such matrices have been found in Scandinavia and none south of the Baltic Sea. The Falster matrix depicts a man in fine clothing standing with his hands down and palms outward. This gesture is found in both pre-Christian and Christian cultures and symbolizes either submission or revelation. The details of the image remain a mystery. It is not yet known whether the matrix depicts a man or a woman. It is possible that this is the figure of a king expressing devotion to a deity, or conversely, a god appearing to a man. Board games. The love of board games in mankind arose thousands of years ago. These games appeared before many civilizations and accompanied people for thousands of years. The most ancient game, according to archaeologists, was dice games. Cubes found during excavations and dating back more than 5,000 years are almost indistinguishable from modern ones. This confirms that the passion for the game existed in prehistoric times. One of the most ancient games with a board and chips is the Egyptian game of Sinet, which arose around 3500 BC. According to legend, it was invented by the god of wisdom Thoth to lift the curse of the goddess of the sky nut imposed by the god of the moon Khonsu. Sinet was not just entertainment, but also a game with a sacred meaning, symbolizing the struggle between good and evil, as well as the path of the soul to the afterlife. In the East, one of the most ancient games is considered to be Go, the history of which begins around 2000 BC. This strategy game, still popular today, symbolized wisdom and concentration. Backgammon, on the other hand, probably originated in ancient Iran and appeared about 5,000 years ago, although the rules were not documented until Byzantium in the 5th century AD. The Romans also loved board games and played them in taverns where they ate and had fun. Often game boards were carved directly into the tables. Although gambling was prohibited on the streets, it was freely played indoors. Archaeologists have also found cheating dice with a weight inside, which indicates attempts at cheating even in ancient times. Ancient currency. A bronze coin attributed to Pontius Pilate, the prefect of Judea, was minted between 26 and 36 AD during the reign of the Roman Emperor Tiberius. This small artifact is a powerful symbol of the power and influence of the Roman Empire in the territory of ancient Judea. Coins of this period reflect not only economic activity but also the political and religious aspects of the era. The obverse of the coin usually depicted a cult object associated with Roman gods, which emphasized Rome's desire to impose its culture. However, this caused conflicts with the local Jewish population, for whom images associated with pagan beliefs could be blasphemous. The reverse side of the coin often depicted symbols such as a cornucopia or kettle drums, symbolizing prosperity and control. Inscriptions on the coin contain references to Tiberius, reinforcing his authority as a ruler. Tomb of Tutankhamun. This discovery became one of the most famous archaeological finds of the 20th century. It is the final resting place of the young pharaoh who ruled Egypt from 1332 to 1323 BC during the 18th dynasty. Unlike other royal tombs, its size and decoration are quite modest, which is probably due to the unexpected death of Tutankhamun at a young age. Perhaps this tomb was not originally intended for the pharaoh, but was adapted for him due to lack of time. Despite its modest size, the tomb surprised researchers with the number and magnificence of the burial items. Among the finds were gold jewelry, household items, a throne, furniture, clothing, and of course the famous golden burial mask of Tutankhamun, which became a symbol of ancient Egyptian culture. In total, more than 5,000 artifacts were found, each of which helped to reveal important details about the life and death of the pharaohs. The tomb was discovered in 1922 by British archaeologist Howard Carter and his team. Their discovery caused quite a stir around the world, not only because of the enormous amount of wealth, but also because of the exceptional preservation of the artifacts, which shed light on the reign of Tutankhamun. The most important difference between Tutankhamun's tomb and all others is its preservation. It has been preserved in its original form. This discovery was a landmark event in Egyptology and remains one of the most important archaeological discoveries of all time. Let's hope it is not the last. Real Indiana Jones find. Archaeologists have made an astonishing discovery beneath one of Jordan's biggest tourist attractions. 12 complete skeletons found in a tomb beneath the iconic structure in Petra known as the Treasury, Al-Khazna. The site was made famous by the film Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. The Treasury, which is believed to be a mausoleum, was carved by the Nabatean people around 2,000 years ago. Petra was the capital of the Nabatean kingdom, and its majestic structures carved from pink stone still amaze the imagination. The discovery will help us learn more about the ancient Nabateans. Many other tombs in Petra contained only fragments of human remains, but this tomb contained 12 complete skeletons. This important find will allow us to study the rituals surrounding the life and death of the Nabateans, as well as their way of life, based on the analysis of their teeth and bones. The tomb has been tentatively dated to between the 1st century BC and the 1st century AD, during the height of the Nabatean kingdom, which was annexed by Rome in 106. One of the skeletons was found to contain a ceramic vessel reminiscent of the famous bowl from the Indiana Jones film, adding further intrigue to the find.
100 Iron Age artifacts. Archaeologists in Denmark have made an incredible discovery. More than 100 weapons, including spears, swords, knives, and rare chainmail. They were all found beneath the home of an Iron Age chieftain. The collection is around 1,500 years old and may have been part of a ritual offering after a military success. The weapons were found beneath 2 5th-century houses, likely belonging to a powerful chieftain who could raise an army. The items include 119 spears, 8 swords, 5 knives, an axe, and a chainmail suit that is believed to have belonged to the chieftain himself. Such armor was expensive and difficult to make, highlighting its importance. In addition to the weapons, archaeologists have also found bronze neck rings, known as oath rings, symbols of power in the Iron Age. Fragments of harness, a bronze horn, and other metal objects have also been found, which have yet to be studied. Denmark was on the fringes of the Roman Empire in the 1st to 4th centuries, part of Magna Germania. The locals were mostly farmers, but Romans like Julius Caesar mentioned fierce Germanic warriors. Some scholars suggest that the Romans may have supplied local tribes with weapons to maintain order on the borders. Cannonballs from Dracula's army. Count Dracula is known to many as a bloodthirsty vampire who hunts his victims with the help of supernatural abilities and sharp fangs. However, the real person behind this name, Vlad the Impaler, was far from the mythical image created by Bram Stoker. Ironically, the real Vlad preferred to use cannonballs rather than fangs. Recent excavations in the town of Svištov, Bulgaria have uncovered cannonballs that may have belonged to Prince Vlad III, also known as Vlad the Impaler. This ruler, who became the prototype of the legendary Dracula, was known for his brutal methods of warfare, especially against the Ottoman Turks. A particularly interesting moment in his military career was the conquest of the Zistov fortress in Svištov. Recent archaeological finds of cannonballs likely indicate that these cannonballs were used by Vlad during this siege. These cannonballs were designed to fire culverins, early cannons used in the 15th and 16th centuries. Vlad the Impaler tried to retake territory captured by the Turks, who had controlled the region since Roman times. After successfully conquering the Zistov fortress, Vlad turned it into his residence. Although artillery was an important part of his siege tactics, his sinister reputation stems from his preference for executing his enemies by impaling them.
Plate proves to be important artifact. A gold plate dating back to the 6th to 7th centuries AD has recently been discovered in England. It was discovered by a metal detectorist in Climping, West Sussex. This rare piece of early medieval art is now on display in the Littlehampton Museum Archaeology Gallery. The plate was most likely used to decorate a sword, although it could have been part of other valuable items. A museum spokesman called it a tiny masterpiece and noted the exquisite filigree of twisted gold wire, a clear indication of the skill of Anglo-Saxon craftsmen of the time. Decorative elements of this level demonstrate the importance attached to the art of weapon decoration in the early Middle Ages. Now, visitors to the Littlehampton Museum can see up close the exquisite designs and complex techniques used by 6th and 7th century craftsmen. Scandinavian code solved. Jonas Nordby, a researcher at the University of Oslo, has deciphered an ancient Scandinavian cipher from the 12th to 13th centuries known as Jotunvelur, roughly translated as confusion of giants. The answer was found thanks to a 13th century wooden stick from the Norwegian city of Bergen, on which Sigurd and Lavrans wrote down their names both in ordinary runic writing and using the Jotunvelur cipher. This find became a kind of Rosetta Stone for the scientist, helping to decipher the text by reading each rune not by its direct meaning, but by the last sound in its name. In addition, other wooden inscriptions were discovered where the names Thorstein and Einar were written in the same code. Runic sticks of the 12th to 13th centuries in Scandinavia were used to transmit messages reminiscent of modern SMS. Nordby believes that Jotunvelur could be used not so much for secrecy, but as a language game, helping to teach literacy. So the 800-year-old code called Jotunvelur turned out to be a joke. The message read, "Kiss me."
Visby lenses. A favorite pastime of archaeologists and historians is playing what if. Many moments from the past, even seemingly insignificant ones, could radically change the course of human history. For example, what if the so-called Visby lenses fell into the hands of an early medieval scientist and he began the study of optics in Europe 500 years earlier? The Visby lenses are a collection of high-quality optical lenses found on the Swedish island of Gotland in 1999. They date back to the 11th and 12th centuries and are made of quartz. Some lenses show signs of alteration, probably for mounting in the silver frames that make them so recognizable. These lenses are reminiscent of the reading stones of Abbas ibn Firnas. This suggests that the lenses were produced in the Byzantine or Islamic empires, then brought to Scandinavia and remade to suit local tastes. Lenses of this type could be used as magnifying glasses for reading or for viewing the details of objects. They could also serve as decoration. Interestingly, when compared with modern lenses, the image quality of antique lenses is almost as good. However, the origin of the lenses remains a mystery. The appearance and disappearance of these lenses in the Scandinavian world raises questions. Did they buy the first lenses or receive them as trophies? Did an Islamic or Byzantine artisan come to Gotland? Or was it the creation of a brilliant inventor from Gotland? Regardless of the origin of the lenses, the question can be asked. What if they had fallen into the hands of the inventor who created the telescope 500 years before Galileo? What if Vikings could explore our solar system? What if the science of optics had begun to develop 500 years earlier?
Spanish bronze barrel. Archaeologists have discovered the oldest firearm in the continental United States. The Spanish bronze barrel was found in Arizona and is believed to have belonged to members of the expedition of Francisco Vázquez de Coronado. This expedition, which took place from 1539 to 1542, was the first attempt by Europeans to cross the Great Plains, but its results were insignificant, and Spain abandoned further plans to develop these lands. The find is a cast bronze barrel 106.7 centimeters long and weighing about 18 kilograms. This weapon, similar to a culverin, could fire grape shot or small cannonballs. It was discovered during excavations of an adobe building in the settlement of San Jeronimo III, where the expedition members were located. According to researchers, this weapon was of great value and was left in working order. Archaeologists believe that it was abandoned during an Indian attack on the settlement in 1541. This unique artifact became important evidence of the use of advanced technologies at that time by Europeans in North America.
The First War in European History. Reanalysis of more than 300 sets of skeletal remains, some 5,000 years old, excavated in Spain, has led scientists to believe that these people may have been victims of the earliest known war in European history. This assumption places the beginning of military conflicts in the region 1,000 years earlier than previously known. The find was made in the late Neolithic funerary shelter of San Juan Antiportum Latinum, Chapel, in southwest Europe, discovered by chance in 1985. On an area of 20 square meters, a huge number of human remains were found, including 90 complete and 31 incomplete skeletons, as well as many bones. Research has shown that warfare during the Neolithic period was poorly understood. Previously, it was believed that the conflicts at that time were short-lived and involved about 20-30 people on each side. It was assumed that the first indigenous societies could not fight long wars. However, archaeologist Teresa Fernandez Crespo and her colleagues found many injuries in adolescent and adult males, which was uncommon at other Neolithic mass grave sites in Europe. This indicated a possible long battle lasting several months. The reasons for the conflict are unknown, but it is believed that it may have been a struggle for leadership between different cultural groups in the region.
The moment Ernest Shackleton's ship sank. It was a miracle when the Endurance was discovered under the ice of Antarctica in 2022. Now, thanks to modern 3D scans, we can see the ship that sank in 1915 in incredible detail. These scans show what the ship looked like when it was trapped in ice during Ernest Shackleton's Imperial Trans-Antarctic expedition. The technology used to scan it captured details such as plates scattered across the deck, a boot on the railing, and even traces of a signal flare fired to bid farewell to the ship. The Endurance is almost completely intact, as if it had sunk only recently. These unique 3D scans allow scientists to study the ship, which is considered one of the most inaccessible in the world due to its remote location and ice cover. Iconic collection. Missa in Agenda Defunctorum 1733 is a rare artifact from the early 18th century created for funeral masses. Used by priests to read prayers at the altar, this unique collection stands out not only for its content, but also for the dark symbolism of its design. The book's binding is decorated with an image of a skull and crossbones, which emphasizes its purpose in rituals associated with death and remembrance. The collection includes chants and texts of the Latin liturgy, which were used to repose the souls of the dead. The symbolism of the skull on the cover reflects the then idea of the frailty of existence and a reminder of the inevitability of death, motifs characteristic of the Baroque era. Such books were works of art, symbolizing the mysticism and grandeur of Catholic rituals. It is known that bindings with such symbolism were often made specifically for churches or noble families wishing to emphasize their connection with religious tradition. This collection was probably used in a monastery or chapel, serving as a reminder of the need to pray for the repose of souls.
Noah's Ark in Turkey. There is a place in Turkey that many believe to be the final refuge of the legendary Noah's Ark after the biblical flood. Researchers working in this area are confident that they have found confirmation of this. According to the Bible, after the subsidence of the flood that destroyed all sinners on earth, Noah's Ark, on which he, his family, and pairs of animals were, stopped in the mountains of Ararat. The dimensions of the ark were enormous, about 134 x 22 x 13 meters. The Darupanar Formation in Turkey, discovered in 1956, attracts attention because its outline resembles an ark. Despite various claims about the evidence found, many archaeologists have refuted this theory. A Turkish-American team of researchers analyzed rock and soil samples believed to contain remains of the ark. They claim that the finds indicate human activity in the area around 3000 BC, which coincides with the estimated time of the flood. However, the presence of traces of human activity does not prove the existence of a giant wooden ship or a catastrophic flood. Archaeological evidence does not support the existence of the global flood described in the Bible. Most likely, the theme of the Great Flood is a later version of the Mesopotamian flood story mentioned in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Some argue that a localized flood may have occurred in the Mediterranean and Black Sea area around 7,500 years ago and provided the inspiration for these stories, but even this interpretation is disputed. So, the search for Noah's Ark faces the same problems as the search for Atlantis. Both are based on trying to find evidence for something that has no basis outside of specific stories.
Varna gold treasure. The oldest processed gold was found not in Egypt or among the ancient Sumerians, but in Bulgaria, near Varna. Some researchers consider the Varna culture to be the first European civilization. Radiocarbon dating also confirmed the antiquity of this gold. It was dated to the 5th millennium BC. Gold was accidentally discovered in the 1970s by excavator-operator Ryko Marinov, who was later even awarded. Research at the site continues, and approximately 300 graves have been discovered so far. Gold finds from Varna indicate extensive trade relations of the ancient Varna culture, which may have exported rock salt. Interestingly, shells of the mollusk Spondylus were found in the graves, which could have served as money. Notable finds include a golden boomerang, believed to be an Australian invention, and gold-plated pottery. The two golden bulls are striking in their ratio, reminiscent of the golden ratio, and are associated with the principles of constructing the Cheops pyramid. Scientists also highlight the similarity with the English Stonehenge. There are 56 protrusions on the amulet in the form of a golden bull. The same number of round holes were found in Stonehenge. Fascinating coincidences of history, isn't it? The golden treasures of Varna number more than 3,000 artifacts weighing a total of 6.5 kilograms, the bulk of which were found in 3 special graves, including grave number 43 with the remains of a possible ruler. This man was impressively tall for his time, 1.75 meters. Buried next to it are a variety of gold objects, appliques, rings, necklaces, objects that could be symbolic images, as well as weapons and tools with gold details. In addition, the grave contained many objects made of copper and other materials such as stone, flint, and shells. Of particular note is a bracelet made of gold cylinders, considered the most ancient of gold items, and grave number 36, where over 850 gold artifacts were discovered. These items confirm the burial of a person of royal family. The Third Reich's treasure. A visitor to the popular British show Antiques Roadshow brought in what he believed to be a rare Leica camera, decorated with the Olympic rings, eagle, swastika, and the date 1936. He was sure that the device was connected to the Berlin Olympics and was a valuable Nazi artifact. However, the show's expert Mark Allam, who specializes in antique cameras, came to a surprising conclusion. The camera was a fake. The visitor said that he had bought the camera for £480 from an antique shop, believing it to be a bargain. Allam, impressed by the camera's appearance, commented on its beauty, but quickly noticed details that gave it away. He explained that the antiques market, particularly in Eastern Europe, is awash with fake Leicas designed to deceive collectors. The expert pointed out problems with serial numbers and poor quality engraving, which is unacceptable for an authentic Leica. A truly rare Leica camera could cost thousands of pounds. Antira Mechanism. It is impossible not to mention the most unique archaeological discovery, which many consider to be the first known analog computer, the Antira Mechanism. This complex device was created to predict astronomical events such as planetary positions and solar eclipses, and could track cycles including the 4-year period of the Olympic Games. It also allowed for the accurate calculation of lunar phases and solar years. Its functionality and complexity are astounding, considering that it was created more than 2,000 years ago between 150 and 100 BC. The Antira mechanism was discovered in 1901 in the wreckage of an ancient ship that sank near the Greek island of Antikythera. Its discovery was a real sensation, since the mechanism consists of many bronze gears and wheels, which makes it incredibly complex for its time. The largest gear in the device has a diameter of about 13 centimeters, and the overall design indicates a high level of skill of ancient engineers. Scientists continue to study the artifact to this day, using modern technology such as X-rays and 3D scanning to uncover all of its functions. The Antira mechanism is considered evidence that the ancient Greeks possessed knowledge and technology that was lost for centuries after.
100,000 ancient coins. In Maebashi, Japan, archaeologists have discovered a unique find: over 100,000 ancient coins, including Chinese Banliang coins dating back to 175 BC. These coins, found during the construction of the factory, cover the period from the 7th to the 13th centuries. They were tied into bundles of 100 pieces using sashi straw ropes. This site, close to the ruins of a Qin dynasty palace, was chosen to hide the treasure, probably because of the approaching war. A total of 10 60 sasha bundles were found, some of which contained up to 1,000 coins. Analysis of 334 coins from the hoard revealed 44 different types of currency, spanning the period from the Western Han dynasty to the Southern Song dynasty. The earliest Banliang coin has a diameter of 2.3 centimeters, a square hole in the center, and a thickness of 1 mm. The latest coin dates from 1265, indicating that the treasure was hidden during the Kamakura reign.
The only one on Earth. Discovered in 2010 in the Mogok region of Myanmar, Ktoit is perhaps the rarest mineral on Earth. Weighing only 1.61 carats, 0.3 grams, this reddish-orange crystal was initially unnoticed by a sapphire digger. It was only after analysis by Dr. Ktoit that the mineral was given its name, and in 2015 it was recognized as a new mineral by the International Mineralogical Association. Ktoit is composed of bismuth and antimony oxide. Despite its apparent simplicity, its atomic structure is unique, making the mineral exceptional. Another unusual property is its high density, 8 times greater than that of water. These characteristics, together with the rare geological conditions of its formation, make Ktoit a real mystery for scientists. The mineral formed in a pegmatite, an igneous rock formed in the final stages of magma crystallization. Today, a unique specimen of Ktoit is housed at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County, where it is carefully preserved as a scientific treasure. Ktoit remains a unique record of the geological processes that shaped the Earth millions of years ago. Although synthetic versions of the mineral are possible, natural Ktoit is of great value to science, helping to understand tectonic shifts and the evolution of minerals on our planet.
Toothbrush from the time of Frederick the Great. In Potsdam, the capital of Brandenburg, researchers have discovered traces of early modern industrial activity, including the remains of 3 mills that operated from the mid-17th to the mid-19th centuries. These mills were associated with a noble estate, on whose territory the first carriage depot in Germany appeared in 1838. This depot served to service the first Prussian railway line between Berlin and Potsdam. Later, its area increased significantly. The depot existed for more than 150 years and closed in 1999. Now, the territory is intended for the creation of an innovation center. According to Christoph Krauskopf from the Office for the Protection of Monuments, there is a map from 1863 that shows the mills. In addition to the foundations, the researchers found details of the water supply system from the Newt River. Other finds included fragments of tiles with the monograms of Prussian monarchs, shards of ceramics, clay whistles, and a wooden toothbrush. 200-year-old wine. During excavations near the walls of the Kazan Kremlin, archaeologists from the A. K. Kalikoff Institute of Archaeology of the Academy of Sciences of the Republic of Tatarstan in Russia discovered a wine cellar from the early 19th century. It contained 0.3-liter green glass bottles sealed with wax stamps with the manufacturer's initials and year of manufacture. Most of the bottles were broken, but 2 remained intact, and one of them still contained liquid. Scientists have established that the bottles were produced in 1814 to 1815 at the Shiryatinskaya glass factory in the Yegoryevsky district of the Ryazan province. It is assumed that the wine cellar belonged to the Paraskeva Pyatnitskaya church, and the wine was used for church ceremonies, in particular for communion. This archaeological find will be subjected to chemical analysis to determine the composition and properties of the ancient wine drink.
Remains of people with enormous heads. Scientists from the University of Honolulu and the Chinese Academy of Sciences have made a unique discovery, having found the remains of a previously unknown species of ancient people, Homo juluensis. This species is believed to have become extinct about 200,000 years ago. At the Zhujiayao site, archaeologists found 16 skeletons, stone tools, and animal remains. The new species is distinguished by their massive skulls with a volume of 1,600–1,700 cubic centimeters, significantly larger than those of Homo sapiens, 1,300 cubic centimeters, or Neanderthals, 1,400 cubic centimeters. However, scientists emphasize that a large skull does not always indicate higher mental abilities. Instead, it could have been an adaptation to the conditions of the Ice Age when the climate became cooler and harsher. Homo juluensis hunted wild horses, ate their meat, and
used their skins to make clothing. They lived in small groups, which made them vulnerable to climate change and other external threats. Interestingly, the dental structure of Homo juluensis is similar to the Denisovans, another line of hominids that existed in the late Quaternary period about 300,000 years ago. However, like many other ancient species, Homo juluensis probably disappeared due to the emergence of Homo sapiens, which genetically displaced local populations in Europe and Asia.
Rosetta Stone. One of the greatest archaeological finds that revealed to the world the key to deciphering ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs is the Rosetta Stone. It was discovered by officer Pierre-François Bouchard in July 1799 during Napoleon's campaign in Egypt. The stone immediately attracted attention due to its unique trilingual inscription. This granodiorite block contained a decree dating back to 196 BC during the reign of King Ptolemy V Epiphanes. The inscription was written in 3 languages: ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs at the top, Demotic script, a simplified script popular at the time, in the middle, and ancient Greek at the bottom. The uniqueness of the stone was that the Greek text was the key to deciphering the other 2. French scientist Jean-François Champollion completed the deciphering process in 1822, which was a revolutionary breakthrough in Egyptology. The Rosetta Stone provided insight into ancient Egyptian culture, religion, and history that had previously been hidden behind unreadable hieroglyphs. Although this is one of the most important discoveries in the history of archaeology, there are even more important archaeological discoveries to come.
$20 billion treasure ship. The galleon San Jose, which sank on June 8, 1708 during a naval battle with an English squadron, became one of the most famous underwater finds. A gunpowder explosion occurred on board the ship, which was carrying 600 people, leading to its destruction and subsequent sinking in the Caribbean Sea. Believed to be lost for centuries, the San Jose was discovered in 2015 by the Colombian Navy at a depth of about 700 meters. On board the ship are chests filled with gold, silver, and emeralds, valued at between $4 billion and $20 billion. The situation around the galleon's treasures is complicated by the fact that they are claimed by the American company Sea Search Armada, which claims to have found the wreck of the ship in 1981. The company, through the court, is demanding from the Colombian government half the value of the treasure, $10 billion. In response, the Colombian president turned to creating a public-private partnership to implement the Treasure Recovery Project.
Lost part of the statue of Ramesses II. In 1930, German archaeologist Günther Raeder discovered in Egypt the lower part of a statue of Ramesses II, known as Ramesses the Great, who reigned from 1279 to 1213 BC. The statue was split and its upper part remained lost for centuries. After a long search, the upper part of the statue was finally found in Hermopolis, which was turned into an open-air museum. The discovery was made thanks to the efforts of archaeologists from Egypt and the United States during excavations in Hermopolis, which is located near Al-Ashmunin. Hermopolis was one of the main religious centers of antiquity, dedicated to the god of wisdom Thoth. The upper part of the statue, 3.8 meters long, discovered under layers of sand, depicts the pharaoh wearing a traditional cobra headdress. The statue is made of limestone, with hieroglyphs glorifying Ramesses II engraved on its back. The find also contained traces of ancient paint, which will enable scientists to accurately date the creation of the statue and establish its origin. Ramesses II is known as one of the greatest pharaohs in the history of ancient Egypt. During his long life, he built many significant structures and strengthened Egypt's military and diplomatic power.
9 commandments out of 10. The oldest known stone slab with 9 of the 10 commandments carved into it is set to go up for auction. Experts estimate that the price could reach $1, $2 million. The marble slab dates back to between 300 and 500 AD and was discovered in 1913 during railroad construction on the southern coast of modern-day Israel, near the sites of early synagogues, mosques, and churches. The marble slab, which is about 2 feet tall and weighs 115 pounds, contains 20 lines of text in Paleo-Hebrew. It first hit the market in 2016 and sold for $850,000. For a long time after its discovery, the significance of the slab remained unclear. At one point, it was even used as a tile at the entrance to a house, which is why some of the letters were erased. In 1943, archaeologist J. Kaplan acquired the tablet and identified it as the Samaritan Decalogue, created by the Samaritans, an ancient religious group whose beliefs were based on the Old Testament but differed from Judaism. The tablet's text almost completely matches the biblical commandments familiar to both Christians and Jews. However, one of the commandments, "Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain," is missing. Instead, it is instructed to worship on Mount Gerizim, reflecting the religious beliefs of the Samaritans. The Chinese are urinating on this statue. In China, there is a unique group of monuments designed to express contempt for the figure depicted on them. The national traitor Kun Gui, or Hui. This figure is famous for his betrayal in the 12th century of the great hero of China, Yue Fei, who fought against the nomads and contributed to the unification of the state. Kun Gui accused the military leader Yue Fei of stopping the persecution of the nomads and secretly executed him, thereby depriving the country of a national hero. In this regard, when the monument to Kun Gui was erected, he immediately became an object of hatred and contempt. This approach to monuments is rare in China, usually reserved for controversial historical figures. The monument is a statue of Sun Gui and his relatives kneeling in a pose of repentance. Previously, the Chinese practiced desecration of the monument by urinating on it, but the government introduced a ban on such actions, leaving only the option of spitting and cursing at the statue.
Kungui has become a symbol of lies and betrayal in Chinese culture, in contrast to Yue Fei, whose name is associated with heroism and devotion. An interesting fact is that in Chinese cuisine there is even a dish named after Sun Gui and his wife. These are elongated donuts that are fried in boiling oil, symbolizing their eternal punishment. This is an example of how China long preserves the memory of its heroes and traitors. Another interesting thing is that the Chinese can urinate and spit on the statue, but tourists should under no circumstances do this. Otherwise, you will immediately go to prison for desecrating the monument. Hagar Chim. The Hagar Chim Temple in Malta is one of the most ancient and impressive megalithic structures, dating back to the Gantija phase of 3600–3200 BC. Situated on a hill overlooking the Mediterranean Sea, this temple complex represents one of the most important archaeological evidences of ancient civilizations that existed long before the construction of the pyramids in Egypt and Stonehenge in England. Hagar Kim and other megalithic temples of Malta have been recognized as unique masterpieces of architecture. The temple is built from massive stone blocks, some of which weigh up to 20 tons. The complex has a crescent-shaped facade, which is typical for Maltese temples of that era. Architectural features include internal halls, niches, and altars, which indicate the ritual and religious function of this structure. Statues symbolizing fertility were found inside the temples. An interesting detail of Hajar Chim is its orientation. The temple is designed in such a way that on the day of the summer solstice, the first rays of the sun penetrate through the central entrance and illuminate the interior of the complex. This fact points to the astronomical knowledge of the ancient builders and their deep connection with natural cycles. The story of a condemned man. The justice system is not without flaws. Sometimes innocent people end up behind bars. However, the story of Will Purvis is an example that miracles do happen. In 1893 in Mississippi, Will was accused of killing a neighbor due to a sudden quarrel. Purvis confirmed the existence of a conflict between them but categorically denied murder. He had no defense witnesses. The jury sentenced him to death. When he was taken out of court, he exclaimed, "I will outlive you all." It seemed like empty words back then. However, when he was led to execution in 1894, something incredible happened. The noose did not block his breathing and the rope came undone. The crowd decided that this was a sign from above. The sheriff, sensing the tense situation, took Will back to prison. Despite appeals, the verdict remained in force. Will's friends did not leave him. They organized an escape. The change in power and public support did their job. Will was offered life imprisonment instead of the death penalty if he surrendered. Purvis agreed, and later the public began to put pressure on the governor so that Will would be completely released from responsibility due to the lack of evidence of his guilt. The governor had to agree. As the years passed, the truth came to light. On his deathbed, a certain Joseph Beard admitted that he was the killer, not Purvis. Will, whose name was cleared due to many circumstances, passed away on October 13, 1938, just a few days after the death of the last of the jurors who sentenced him to death. What do you think? Was the incident on the scaffold a miracle or a sign? Leave your comments under the video. Ice Age art. The Alb Donau mammoth in Germany is one of the oldest examples of Ice Age art, dating back some 35,000 years. This miniature figurine is carved from mammoth tusk, which in itself is evidence of the skill and artistic flair of primitive people. Discovered in the 1930s, the artifact has become an important link in the study of early human art. What makes this piece special is not only its age, but also its detail. The surface of the figurine is covered with notches, possibly symbolic or decorative, which add to the mystery of the artifact. They may be early examples of communication or spiritual ideas of ancient people. Archaeologists suggest that such figurines could have been used for ritual purposes, acting as talismans for hunters or symbols of good luck. The mammoth, which symbolized strength and endurance, probably played an important role in the worldview of primitive tribes. Ancient aliens are real. At the first hearings in the Mexican parliament, journalist and ufologist Jaime Maussan already tried to convince of the authenticity of the mummies, supposedly thousands of years old. His attempts were unsuccessful then, and parliamentarians recalled past incidents with mummies of Nazca Indians, which turned out to be fake. Humanoids, similar to characters from science fiction films, aroused distrust among the hearing participants. The ufologist referred to research from the National Autonomous University of Mexico, but did not provide convincing evidence of their extraterrestrial origin. At the next hearing, ufologist Malsan invited anthropologist Roger Zuniga, who stated that there were no traces of human intervention in the formation of humanoids. He stressed that their origin remains unknown. Argentine surgeon Celestino Adolfo Piatto expressed the opinion that the humanoids could be an evolved version of modern humans, calling them our descendants. Do you believe in the reality of these mummies? Write your opinion in the comments under the video. It's really interesting to know how many people among my viewers believe in alien mummies.
Unfinished antediluvian structure. In the mysterious valleys of Lebanon lies Baalbek, a city that holds the mysteries of ancient times. A newly discovered structure at the site adds new information, confirming Baalbek's unique significance to archaeology and world culture. For a long time, the megalithic architecture of Baalbek remained a mystery to scientists. The construction methods and reasons for creating such large-scale structures had no analogs. However, the latest discovery offers new interpretations and opportunities for understanding ancient civilizations. Baalbek, located in the Bekaa Valley, is known for its important role in the Hellenistic and Roman periods. Since its conquest by Alexander the Great, the city has undergone significant changes, becoming a bridge between Eastern and Western cultures. Greek culture left its mark on the architecture and art of Baalbek, as can be seen from the stylistic features of its buildings. The Romans, in turn, expanded and strengthened its status as a religious and cultural center by erecting magnificent temples and public buildings. The most famous buildings in Baalbek are the temples dedicated to Jupiter, Venus, and Bacchus. These temples are known not only for their magnificence, but also for the technical achievements embodied in their designs. One of the most significant elements is the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, a giant megalith weighing over 1,000 tons, which was never included in the final design of the temple. The discovery at the quarry in 2014 only added to the mystery surrounding these ancient construction methods. The find showed that ancient builders used technologies ahead of their time, raising questions about the origins and spread of ancient engineering knowledge. Comparing Baalbek with other ancient wonders such as Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids, one can see commonalities in the logistics and engineering approaches. For example, transporting the huge stones for Stonehenge or building the pyramids at Giza required not only physical resources, but also advanced planning and astronomical knowledge. Modern archaeological methods such as ground-penetrating radar and 3D scanning are opening new horizons in the study of ancient technologies.
Prehistoric petroglyphs in a unique place. In the Italian Alps on Mount Pizzo Tricero, amazing prehistoric petroglyphs were discovered, recognized as the highest in Europe. These rock paintings were found in the summer of 2017 by a tourist, Tommaso Malinverno, who noticed strange carved figures on a rock at the foot of the Tricero Glacier in the Stelvio National Park. Archaeologists dated the petroglyphs to the Middle Bronze Age, that is, they are about 3,200 years old. The uniqueness of these finds lies not only in their age, but also in their altitude, more than 3,000 meters above sea level. This suggests that people at that time were developing high mountain territories. The drawings include figures of people with their hands raised to the sky, spirals, images of animals, and geometric patterns, the meaning of which is still unclear. In November 2024, another important discovery was made in the Lombardy region where the Stelvio Park is located. A 280-million-year-old fossilized ecosystem was found in the Orobi Valtellini Park. This confirms that the region is a true window into the past, combining paleontological and archaeological heritage. Helped swallow, breathe, and talk. Polish archaeologists have discovered a unique medical prosthesis designed for a person with a cleft palate, which is about 300 years old. This defect occurs when the roof of the mouth does not close properly during development and can now be corrected with surgery. However, 3 centuries ago, people were forced to look for other solutions. The prosthesis was found in the Church of St. Francis of Assisi in Krakow and is the first of its kind found in Poland. It was probably custom-made for a specific person with a cleft palate to make their life more comfortable. The device was inserted into the mouth and filled the gap in the roof of the mouth, performing functions necessary for normal life. The uniqueness of this prosthesis lies in its design. It consists of two parts, a metal plate that acts as the hard palate and a woolen lining for a snug fit to the mouth. The hard palate helps with swallowing, breathing, and speaking, and also holds objects in the mouth, preventing them from entering the nasal cavity. This small device, about 3 centimeters long and weighing only 6 grams, was quite advanced for its time. To study the prosthesis in more detail, scientists used a special microscope and X-ray analysis. They discovered that the metal parts were made of copper mixed with gold and silver. The wool pad contained traces of silver iodide, probably to protect against germs and maintain cleanliness.
Cinderella's slipper. The story of Cinderella, one of the most beloved and famous fairy tales, has deep roots dating back to ancient times. Many cultures have created their own versions of the tale from Greek to Chinese. However, the first European literary version, included in Giambattista Basile's Pentamerone in 1634, tells an unusual version of the story. In the Italian tale, the heroine, Zizola, is shown to be anything but innocent. Her first stepmother is killed by her own design, after which a cunning governess takes her place. But after marrying Zizola's father, she turns into an even more cruel stepmother, adding 6 daughters who drive the heroine to despair. In the end, everything ends with a wedding with the king, although Zizola leaves behind a not quite fairy tale path. Interestingly, in the Italian version, Cinderella loses not a glass slipper, but Chopin unusual shoes with a high platform. These accessories were popular in Europe from the 14th to the 17th centuries, especially in Venice. Made of wood or cork, they could reach incredible heights, up to 50 centimeters or even higher. Chopin served not only to protect against dirt, but also as a status symbol. The higher the platform, the higher the woman's position in society. This strange element of footwear perfectly reflects the spirit of the times and the social realities of the era. Venetian Chopins with their massive soles were real works of art, often decorated with brocade, embroidery, or jewelry. Perhaps it was thanks to this unusual attribute of footwear that Cinderella managed to attract the attention of the king, even though it was not easy to walk in them. Unicorn horn. Let me introduce you to the life of a medieval unicorn. This creature, although mythical, faced the cruel attitude of humanity. People hunted unicorns for their magical horns, which were believed to have unique properties, such as the ability to purify water and remove poison from food. Unicorns were believed to exist according to the testimony of many ancient scientists, including Aristotle and Ctesias, as well as great minds such as Leonardo da Vinci. In the Middle Ages, unicorns personified purity and wisdom. Their horns became a symbol of prosperity and could serve as an indicator of food poisoning among the aristocracy. But how do you find a unicorn horn in a world where these creatures don't exist? This question has been answered through the use of the horns of other animals such as rhinoceroses or walruses. Most popular, however, are the tusks of narwhals, animals from the Arctic whose curled tusks have been mistaken for centuries for the horns of unicorns. Travelers and hunters secretly obtained these horns and sold them to Europeans as the horns of mythical creatures. Thus, merchants and great rulers like Lorenzo de' Medici and Queen Elizabeth I paid huge sums for these tusks, considering them symbols of power and protection. Even the Grand Inquisitor Thomas de Torquemada did not travel without a piece of such a horn, believing that it could save his life from heretics. With the development of science and the progress of research methods, belief in the miraculous properties of unicorn horns has subsided, and now they remain only exhibits in museums, a reminder of how legends and reality were intertwined in human history.
Bronze Age wooden well. Archaeologists recently discovered a well-preserved Bronze Age wooden well in Oxfordshire, England. The well was found during the construction of Benson Relief Road. John Boothroyd, senior project manager, said they expected to find a regular hole but came across a preserved wooden post driven vertically into the ground. Further excavations revealed that the pillars were part of a wooden well. The moist soil contributed to the excellent preservation of the tree. Archaeologists digitally documented the structure and carefully dismantled it for transport to Oxfordshire museums. Wood samples were sent for analysis to determine its type. In addition to the well, archaeologists found flint, animal bones, and pottery fragments indicating their use for storage and waste. Despite difficult conditions, the team successfully fixed the well. Soil samples will help create a more complete picture of the surrounding landscape and the scale of the settlement. The source of all things. The clay sculpture seated Mother Goddess from Balochistan, Pakistan dates back to the Bronze Age and is dated to around 2500 to 2000 BC. This artifact, measuring only 8.6 centimeters by 2.9 centimeters, is kept in the collection of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. The sculpture depicts a mother goddess, a symbol of fertility and motherhood. A characteristic feature is the detailed elaboration of the hairstyle in the form of twisting curls, which may symbolize vitality and protection. Large breasts and hips emphasize the cult of the feminine principle, common in ancient cultures associated with agriculture. Of particular interest is the similarity of this sculpture with similar artifacts found in other regions, such as Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley. There are assumptions about the ritual purpose of the sculpture. Probably it was used in ceremonies associated with the fertility of the earth and women. A more mystical interpretation hints at a connection with ancient cosmic cults, where the figure could symbolize the connection between heavenly and earthly forces, being a mediator between the worlds. Egyptian hieroglyphs in Australia. In a secluded corner of Australia on the shores of Brisbane Waters National Park are the mysterious carved symbols known as the Gowsford glyphs. These symbols, carved on rocks in the forest, cause endless debate among researchers and lovers of ancient civilizations. The Gowsford glyphs are a set of carved characters that resemble ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs in style. They depict various symbols, including figures of people, animals, and mystical creatures, as well as abstract signs and pictograms. These symbols are located on two large stone panels, and their content and origin are still a matter of debate. The similarity of the glyphs to Egyptian hieroglyphs gives rise to theories about possible historical contact between ancient Egypt and Australia. Some researchers believe that the glyphs may have been created by Egyptians who traveled or even became shipwrecked on the Australian continent. A series of drawings tells the story of two princes who arrived from Egypt, one of whom died and was buried in this place. Translations and interpretations of these symbols vary, but many agree that the texts on the stones contain elements of ancient Egyptian rituals and beliefs. This may indicate that the ancient Egyptians actually explored or even temporarily settled in Australian lands. Some symbols, such as the UFO glyph, are interpreted as images of unusual objects or phenomena, which only fuels interest in the place. Theories about the connection between Egypt and Australia are also supported by Aboriginal legends and artifacts found in Egypt that could indicate contact between the continents. For example, the discovery of tobacco and cocaine in mummies, plants that are indigenous to the Americas, suggests that ancient cultures may have had advanced navigational abilities and engaged in intercontinental trade. For ancient travelers, Australia may have represented not only a new land for exploration, but also a place of pilgrimage where new knowledge and resources could be gained. The exchange of knowledge and technology could be mutual, with the ancient Egyptians adopting unique methods of survival and knowledge of nature from the Aborigines. Gosford's glyphs confirm that human history may still have many unknown pages waiting to be discovered. Gladiator-shaped knife handle. Archaeologists have found a rare artifact, the handle of a folding copper knife in the shape of a miniature gladiator. The find is over 2,000 years old and was discovered by divers in the River Tyne near Corbridge, a Roman settlement in Northumberland next to Hadrian's Wall. It is rare evidence that the admiration for Roman gladiators reached even the outskirts of the empire. The handle depicts a secular gladiator, a powerful warrior in heavy armor, with a closed helmet and a large weapon. The peculiarity of the figurine is that it depicts a left-handed person, which is surprising since in ancient Rome this was considered a bad omen. Perhaps the figurine represents a specific warrior specially trained to use his left hand to gain an advantage in the arena. Gladiators, despite often being slaves or convicted criminals, could be the real stars of their era. Their battles drew crowds to amphitheaters, and their victories turned fighters into legends. Even today, their romanticized image continues to attract attention, as evidenced by the success of movies such as Gladiator. How the handle ended up in the river and who its owner was remains a mystery. Gilmerton Cave. Gilmerton Cave in Scotland, considered one of the oldest sites in the country, has recently become the subject of scientific debate. Located in the Edinburgh suburb of Gilmerton, the cave was opened to the public just 20 years ago, but its true origins still raise questions. The cave, consisting of 2 corridors and 8 rooms, was completely carved out of sandstone by hand. It was once believed that it served as a temple for the Druids and was closed by them to preserve the sanctity of the place. However, new data casts doubt on this version. Some researchers have suggested that the cave may have been used as an isolated pub, although the presence of several such establishments in the small village makes this theory unlikely. The complexity and quality of the sandstone work in the cave, as well as the presence of curved, horn-shaped tables, indicate a period before the Christian era. Therefore, the dating of the construction of the cave presumably dates back to 500 BC. To 500 AD, a period when Druids may have lived in the region. Exploration of the cave continues, and the discovered hidden part of the bay may reveal even more secrets in the future. Scientists do not rule out that Gilmerton Cave may subsequently be recognized as a unique surviving sanctuary of an ancient culture, despite numerous mysteries and the lack of concrete evidence about its original purpose.
The body of a frozen man 400 years ago. In the Alps, archaeologists have discovered the body of a man who died approximately 400 years ago. Researchers believe that the man, found at an altitude of 3,600 meters above sea level, went to the mountains and froze due to bad weather. The man was dressed in rich 17th century clothing, indicating his high social position. He was probably a merchant or traveler. More than 150 gold coins, weapons, a dagger, a sword, and a pistol, leather boots, and the remains of mules were found on him. This incredible find gives us a unique opportunity to explore the lives and journeys of people in the early modern era. Clothing, personal effects, and other artifacts found with the body provide valuable information about the fashion, trade, and technology of the time. Scientists plan to conduct a thorough examination of the remains and artifacts to learn more about the life and death of this mysterious traveler. Recreated the appearance of Jesus Christ. Modern researchers are actively engaged in reconstructing the appearance of historical figures, including Julius Caesar, Cleopatra, and even Jesus Christ. By the way, the reconstruction suggests that Cleopatra was not nearly as beautiful as she is often depicted. Now, scientists have reached the image of Christ, who is traditionally associated with long curls, a beard, and a robe. However, an analysis of archaeological finds and texts suggests that his real appearance was different. According to scientists, Jesus had brown eyes, dark skin, and short curly hair. His clothing probably consisted of a simple knee-length tunic and a woolen robe. This is how people of his time and social status dressed. He led a modest lifestyle, spent a lot of time outdoors, which could have left wrinkles on his face, and his hands and feet were most likely calloused due to hard work. An interesting addition was the discovery of the earliest depiction of Christ, dating back to the 4th century and discovered in modern-day Syria. In this ancient painting, Christ is depicted with short hair and no beard. However, in later Christian art, he began to be depicted with white skin and European features, which became the canonical image. In 2015, physician Richard Neve created a composite portrait of a man from the region based on skulls and anthropological data. This reconstruction suggests that the real appearance of Christ was closer to the Mediterranean than the image we are accustomed to. Dr. Meredith Warren from the University of Sheffield believes that such reconstructions may be closer to reality, although it is impossible to fully prove their accuracy. The lack of lifetime images of Christ leaves room for interpretation. Nevertheless, new ideas about his appearance help to better understand the era and context in which he lived. Rate this video with your thumb up and share it with your friends. This way you will help promote the channel. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Bye everyone.